Yes, I'm a Grumble hater. I'm Joel. I often trip on power cables and have mild power fantasies about being player 1 on the Wii remote. Grumble Volcano is the worst track Mario Kart has ever introduced. Maybe. Actually, probably not. Figure 8 circuit exists after all. At the very least though, Grumble Volcano is the worst in Mario Kart Wii. Whether it's actually last or not doesn't actually matter though, because any way you slice it, it is a game design failure. At least to me. And maybe you too, I don't know you. Before we start on the main track, I just want to get the music out of the way. It's bland and uninteresting, but even most of this track's defenders agree on that. I'm going to go through the entire track chronologically. The first cave section sucks really hard, and it boils down to one light turn that's very easy to stay on. And the lava walls are hideous. But I'll get to that later. Next, we come on to the split path room, which achieves nothing. The walls are barren and lifeless, except for on the top path, where there's the exact same holes, repeated with the exact same distance, over and over and over again. The wall in the middle sucks. It prevents falling to the lower level for the majority of the section, and it blocks views of the other racers. Why not have the split paths be separated by only elevation, like in the 3DS version of N64 Mario Raceway, or Wario's Shipyard, so that driving on the top one is actually worth doing, because it's faster, but also more difficult as you could fall down to the low one and lose your speed. This room is a complete waste of time. Then, you leave the cave into my favourite part of the track, the shifting block section. I'd give it a 3 out of 10. You can get a small dopamine hit from repeatedly tricking on this section, but it's hard to give credit to such a small feature that's present in so many other tracks in Wii, including many of the retros. After that, the initial drive up to the big rock is alright. Still not good, but not terrible. The falling meteors are reasonable hazards, but they're far from compelling, since similar hazards are seen in so many other tracks in Wii. They're not big, and you can see them coming from a mile off, but they do provide some difficulty to this section, and they can genuinely prevent you trying to take the faster upper paths. But then you reach the boulder, and the real split happens, and I am completely lost. I don't understand how people like this section. There are 2 paths. You can pick left, but I think I can count on one hand how many times I've seen a human player take the left path in Wii. If you're front running, you take right because it's faster. If you've got a mushroom, you take right because there's a shortcut. If you're a medium or heavyweight, which in Wii you should be, you take the right path because there's very little threat of falling into the lava from being hit. This is caused by the only dangerous part of the right path to be its entrance, which is problematic when it's wide enough, even on lap 3, and the controls in Wii are tight enough for the opening to the right path to not be particularly dangerous. There's of course the threat of other racers, but that's only really a problem for lightweights as long as you stay in the centre of the path. And lastly, on a visual perspective, the right path is just more interesting, as you can at least see the main volcano, whereas on left you can only see the skybox. Which brings me neatly onto... Man, I really hate these visuals. Grumble Volcano may just have the ugliest and emptiest skybox of any Mario Kart track ever. It's just lava and clouds. This is made slightly better by several other small volcanoes and rocks, except not really because they all look virtually the same and boring. Except the question mark block one. I like that one. Also, the textures on this track just look worse than even most of Wii's poor looking retros. Wii may be the only Mario Kart track that isn't at least a good graphical showcase for its console. In fact, compared to other most Nintendo games on Wii, I'd argue it's one of the worst looking. And yet, Grumble is still one of the worst looking tracks in the game. The lava texture hurts my eyes, especially in the tunnel where it's ridiculously bright. And the walls are as barren and grey as you can get. Launch Scarlet and Violet had better looking cliffs and mountains than this track, which honestly says more about modern Pokemon than it does about Grumble. But You'll notice I haven't mentioned Grumble's most defining feature yet. I'll break it down with a Halo analogy. Imagine your favourite set piece from a Halo game. Maybe the Warthog run from Combat Evolved, the Scorpion advance from Reach, the Scarab from Halo 2, and put it in Cortana. It doesn't improve the level that much, does it? It's the equivalent of making a bubble bath, then filling it with Lego. Grumble Volcano does the equivalent, using an excellent track gimmick and set piece to service a terrible track idea and theme, thus not really helping much at all. Except it's worse than the example I gave, because I don't actually think Cortana is that bad of a level. At least not compared to Grumble Volcano. Those examples I gave for Halo are all in service of already great levels, which is why they're remembered so fondly. Imagine Grumble's gimmick of falling apart in a Rainbow Road with shooting star bits breaking up the track, or DK Mountain where the falling boulders creating divots and cracks in the mountain that you can trick off of, or a Bowser's Castle with lava slowly melting mesh parts of the track. All already great tracks made better by a great gimmick. And what's worse? Grumble doesn't even use the gimmick well. After the first lap, and 3/4 of the second lap, basically only off-road has crumbled. So it really leads to only the third lap having increased difficulty. But even then, the difficulty gap between 1 and 3 is not actually that severe, because all of lap 1 and 2 was completely wasted. There's also an issue of getting stuck on a falling piece and waiting for it to fall before Lakitu is able to collect you, but I actually admired that risk-reward factor when cutting across the off-road, which is about the only genuine positive I can say about this track. But let's change the narrative slightly. Grumble Volcano is not the worst track in 8, but it is bottom 2, and the worst in the base game. Only Tokyo Blur surpasses its awfulness. This is for 2 reasons. Both good changes that I believe improve Grumble from hard F tier to very low D. Firstly, its graphical upgrade is excellent. It's still boring, but not ugly. However, in 8, boring but nice looking is not particularly high praise. The other change is this glider on the left path. Due to the change in 8, which prevents you being knocked out of a glider by lightning, there is a genuine strategical reason to take the left path on laps 2 and 3 if you're front running and there hasn't been a shock yet. But that's really not that much. This track is still very poor. And after all of that, Grumble Volcano sucks. Hard. Feel free to tell me why I'm wrong in the comments, and if I do another one of these individual track retrospectives, it will probably be a much more positive one. But for now, I've been Joel, but you can call me the Power Tripper.